Hi friends, it's Becky, and I have a project to share with you today. I have chosen for the month of February to challenge myself to make a full set of jewelry, at least 2 full sets each week. And by full set, I mean necklace, bracelet, rings, and earrings. So I've laid out some beads and some other things from the Softflex Star Crossed Lovers design kit to make a necklace. I will also be making some earrings with y'all like that. This is the first one. We'll make the second one together. And then I've got some other beads that I'm going to be putting all in a row to make a bracelet. And I'm going to be making the ring in a separate video. That video is going to be live with Sarah Ayler on the Softflex channel. This video will not be actually published until after the live is over, so you may see me make the ring before you see me make this. And if you didn't catch that live, I will put a link in it in the description below so that you can go watch it on replay. Alright, so the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to kind of describe what I'm doing, show you how I make my links, and then I'll go away, make all of my links like this, and then we'll put them all together. So both the bracelet and the necklace are going to be beaded chains, which means I'm going to make little links with the bead in between. They're going to be wrapped loop links, and I'm using 20 gauge wire for my beaded chains, and it's going to be both the bracelet and the necklace. For the necklace, I'm using these faceted heart beads, these iris-y shaped guys. I think these were from the bead strand. Then we've got some of these faceted oval beads, a couple of these cylinder beads from the bead mix, and a couple large chunky faceted rondelles. And that's for the necklace. For the bracelet, I'm also going to be using some of the smaller red beads like these faceted coin beads, these heart ceramic beads, and then we've got some smaller black rondelles and a couple of these cylinder beads as well. For the focal, I'm choosing to use this large hexagonal bead that came from the strand, and then this actually didn't come in this kit. It was from a previous Softflex kit strand, but I thought it would be really great as part of this focal. And then I'm going to be using one of these bead caps, and just like I did with this earring here, I'm going to be attaching little drops from the bead cap in kind of a spiral descending order like I did with this earring, and we'll make the second earring together. So this part, it'll be the same for the focal as it is for the earrings when I make that component, and then we'll show you how we put the earring part together when we get to that. And for that, I'm going to be using some of these bugle beads and these really sweet little drop beads that we got in the kit. For that, for the drops, I'm using 22 gauge wire, and the reason for that is because the bugle beads, the hole is a little too small for 20 gauge wire. So 22 gauge will work for this application. Let me get a few of these guys out here for my demonstrations. Now I'm going to move these beads out of the way so that, because it's a lot of beads all on the mat, and it'll confuse my camera a little bit more. But I want to make the focal, show you how to do a wrapped loop link, and then when I come back, we'll be putting them all together. I'm going to use some antique bronze. Some antique antique brass jump rings to bring that color in a little bit more in the necklace. and also in the other. So we'll make some bead caps in just a minute, or we'll make some links in just a minute. But I just want to show you real quick with some of this 22 gauge wire. And you'll want to cut off anywhere from 4.5 inches to about 3 inches of wire, depending on how many of the bugle beads you're going to be stacking. This is one of my longer pieces, and I'm going to be showing you how I make the little dangle that goes on here and attach it. And then I'll make the other dangles and get them attached, and we will build the rest of my focal. So we're going to start with the wire, and let me grab my wire working tools. Got the Holy Trinity here, round nose pliers, some chain nose pliers, and some flush cutters. And let's just zoom in so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Not very far from the end, probably about 1.5 inches. I'm just going to give this a little bit of a bend right here, just to make, you know, an L or something like that. Just a little right angle bend. And that's just so that we've got a nice straight flat area to hang our drop from. And then while it's sitting right there in that corner, I'm going to pinch the drop and the wire and then just push gently with my thumb to increase that angle. And then I'm going to pull the opposite direction until these guys are crossing over each other right there at the top of the drop. Just like that. I'm going to take my pliers, and at the point where these intersect, I'm going to do just the tiniest little tip so that this now is going straight up off the top of that drop. Then I'm going to grab with my finger, and I only need to do a couple of wraps with this just so that it's a little secured. And I'm just pushing with my finger so that that does a little bit of a wrap right over my drop. And now I'm going to cut the excess wire here. And I'm going to start putting some bugle beads on my wire. And I'm going to pick up 6. I'm going to progressively do 1 bugle fewer on each of these so that they start with 6, and then the next one will be 5, and then the next one will be 4, all the way until I've got 1 at the very last bit that just has a single bugle bead. So this part is going to be exactly the same on my focal as it is on my earring. So I'm going to pick up 1 bugle bead and just carefully move it down there. You want to make sure that your wire doesn't have a lot of kinks, because it'll stop that bugle bead from moving down there. You can unkink your wire by just running it through your fingers, you know, and maybe bend it around your finger and then back the other way. That helps work out a lot of kinks with this softer wire, and this is a very soft wire. So it doesn't take a lot of effort to get it to bend and move. Sometimes with softer wire, the problem is you overbend it because you're expecting more resistance than you have. This should be fairly easy. All right. So now that I've got my 6 bugles on here, I'm going to make another wrapped loop, but I'm not going to wrap it until after I have attached it to my bead cap, because this has 6 little openings on it, and I'm going to attach it there. I'm just going to take my round nose pliers and bend this back this way, away from the bugles, and then use my finger to push it over the top. Rotate. You want to open and let the so it stop not holding it anymore when you do the rotating, and then pull this around like that. Now I'm going to just swing this open a little bit more. like that, so that when I put it on this bead cap, it slides on pretty easily. And I don't know if you saw that, I just kind of pinched the sides of the loop together to close it a little bit more. You can do that using your pliers instead of your fingers if you'd like. And I'm just going to pull this wire around just a couple of times. It doesn't need a lot of wrapping. Actually, I may keep going all the way around so that we can... Nope, we're going to snip it off there. That's a good place to snip it. Just a couple of times. And now my first drop is attached to my bead cap. I'm going to do my bead cap drops first before we build the rest of the focal. So what I'm going to do is the next one, I'm going to do it exactly the same way. The only difference between this and all the subsequent drops that I make is I'm going to use one fewer bugle for each one. So my next one I'll put on 5 bugles. The next one after that it'll be 4 bugles. The next one after that it'll be 3, then 2, then 1. And I'll just go around 1, 2, this is the 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Or I could go around the other way. It depends on which way you want it to go. I'm probably going to mirror the one that I do for the earrings, so I'll want to be paying attention to that. But for my main focal, it doesn't really matter to me which direction I go with my drops. So after I've got those other 5 drops attached, I will meet you right back here and we'll put together the rest of our focal. Alright, so I made my little sort of a beaded tassel dangle that is dangling from this bead cap, and it is ready to go to make my my focal. I have opted to use some vintage bronze craft wire, so I'm using, I guess, all 3 colors, or all 3 of these. The black 20 gauge for my links, and then the black 22 gauge for this part, and then some 22 gauge vintage bronze for this focal. I also used this with the earrings, so that will come in handy later when we do that. Now I'm going to want this to be a couple of times longer than I want it to be, because like I did with my earring, I'm going to be wrapping my wire back around the beads once I get them on there. So I'm going to want this to be fairly long. Let's see, that's about 10 inches. Yeah, 10 inches will do. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off here. And then I'm going to take the end of this, and I'm just going to make the end of this wire into a little bit of a bead cap by twisting it around with my round nose pliers. I'm just going to have it go around itself a couple of times like that, and then feed the end through. So it's going through like this. Then when we get down here to the end, I'm going to grab my nylon gel pliers for this part. This will stop it from going through while I pull on it. There we go. So it just basically kind of ties that into a little bit of a knot. And then let's straighten this out again. The rest of this. So now that I've got this knot, I'm going to go in through the concave side of this bead cap, through the center hole with this wire. And that's going to allow this to dangle from it. And it can turn around. It's going to have lots of movement. That's what I want from that. Then I've got this wire over here that I can play around with. But first I'm going to put on this large hexagonal bead right there on top. And then this smaller, like it's a squashed hexagon, I think. Up there. Straighten out and dangle right, friends. So I got both of these on here. Now I want to make myself a loop up here at the top that I can attach my beaded chain to. So I'm going to bend it over there. I can grab my round nose pliers. It doesn't need to be a large loop, so I'm just going to use the middle of my barrel. Go over the top, open my round nose pliers and rotate them, and keep going all the way around. And I'm going to do about 3 wraps. 1, 2, 3. If you notice, there's a little bit of space between these beads and that's so that I can, actually let's go around this way. I can bring this around the front, and there's room for this bead to move up while I bring it around the front of this and wrap around the middle here. And now I want to bring it around the front of this one and wrap it around this stem. I'm just going to wrap several times until I feel like that is good and wrapped. So that is the front of my focal. Going to use my pliers to snip the back. Rotate this, there we go. So that's the first part of making my necklace, was making this. The second part is going to be wire wrapping all of my links. So let's scooch in a little bit and I will pull out my 20 gauge wire for this. And this is how I'm going to make all of the links, whether they are using these beads or these beads or these beads. It's going to be exactly the same way. The only thing that's different will be the size and shape of the bead that's on here. I like to work off the spool because it makes it so that I use less wire and I don't have as much wasted. So first I put the bead on the spool and then forget all about it. And then about 2 inches from the end, we're going to give this a little bit of a bend. It doesn't have to be an exact 90-degree bend. It could be 80 degrees, I don't know. But then I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I did before. Push this wire around over the top, open the pliers and rotate them, and then keep going around. And I'm not going to be worrying about hooking these onto anything before I wrap. So all I need to do now is hold onto my loop and push this around the neck of that wire a few times. 3 times should do. Snip off my excess, tuck in my end, and then I can push my bead up next to that wrap. I'm going to measure 3 fingers down and cut the wire, not your finger. That should give me enough for my second wrap. So for my second wrap, I want my loops to be parallel. So I don't want to be looking at the circle when I'm holding it. I want it to make more of a straight line on that lower loop when I grab the top of this and bend my wire away from me. Then I'm going to do the same thing on this side that I did on the other. Wire over the top, move my pliers out of the way, and then I can just wrap until I get down to my bead. If you need to grab a second set of pliers to help you wrap better, if you're not getting enough leverage or the wire is too short or something like that, you definitely can. straighten out your wires if you'd like. And now I've got another link. And when I put these together, I'll be using a jump ring to connect my, my beaded links together. So I'm going to go back to make all of these links, and when I come back here after I've made all of the links just like I did with these two, then we will assemble everything all together. Alright my friends, I have made all of my links just the way I showed in the last little bit. I used my black wire for the links, and I'm going to be using some antique bronze jump rings to connect these. I have also made my ring, and I made this during my live with Sarah Ayler on Wednesday night using some antique bronze 20 gauge wire and some of these ceramic heart beads and one of these sparkly guys right in the middle. So if you missed that live and you'd like to watch the replay, I will put a link in the description to that so you can see how I made that. But that's the ring part of this full set. Now let's get to the necklace part. So we made our focal in the last little bit, and then I made my links, and I actually have changed my mind a little bit about how I want these links to go. I think I'm going to do a double strand necklace. I am going to start with these guys out here like that, and then there are these bead caps that have 3 loops on the sides. I'm going to use this as a 2-point connector, or 3-point connector, right there on each side of these. And then we're going to take some of these red beads, these black beads, and there's going to be a little more space between each of these links because of the jump rings, but it's going to end up looking a little bit like this for this part. And then the back of it we'll go ahead and go through with these guys. The big chunky guys, the red ones, those guys, and these other red ones around the back like this. And I think that's going to actually look really great. I could have put these along the back of this some more and just had a really, really long necklace, but if you are not new to my channel, then you'll know that I prefer a shorter necklace, and I think that this is going to be the perfect length for me. I've got an extra little bead here that maybe I'll use on my bracelet, or maybe I will just use it in a totally different project somewhere else. It's already been wrapped, so if I do some more wire wrapping, that's ready to go. So let's go ahead and start putting these guys together. I'm going to start here at the middle and do this side and that side, and then connect them to these. Then we'll connect our center portion. No, let's start from this end and go this way. And then we'll connect both of those, or this to that, and down the front. There are many, many ways that I could do this. It all depends on what I feel like doing. Let's start at the end. Yeah, that's a good place to start. That way I can just go in this line. And I'm going to be opening and closing jump rings. You'll want to keep one side of your jump ring stationary. You can do that with a second set of pliers or one of the jump ring rings. And then just twist it open like that. Then you can put both of the things you want to connect with it onto the jump ring and close it up. I'm just making sure that that's good and closed. Alright, so I'm just going to keep doing this. Get these all connected. That jump ring's not great. Sometimes the jump rings don't start out great, like they're a little too overlapped. And you can sort of wiggle them back and forth to try and get them to work better, or you can ignore it, or you can grab a different jump ring, one that's going to close better. There we go. That one closed better. I keep turning that around to the other way every time I go to lay it down. Oh, that's fine though. So this is fun. This will be my first full set for this year's challenge. And I know I chose a ambitious project to start with all of the beaded links and all of that. But you know what? I really enjoy sometimes being able to, sit down with a spool of wire and some beads and just make some links, while I'm doing something else. It is an enjoyable experience for me. It helps to clear my mind and just kind of let me get a little bit more like zen into it. That sort of situation. Alright. Now, I'm just about at the part where I'm going to connect it here. I'm going to do each section of chain and then connect them together to my connectors. So this section is done, like that. Now I'm going to connect this section over here. It just makes a lot of sense to do it that way. You know what I mean? That is not connected the way I wanted it to be. Friends, there you go. That's better. Yes, now that's the way it goes. Yes. I just have to double check that I'm not messing it up. I'm sure y'all will be yelling at me if I start messing it up. But I can't always hear you. So it's good to double check myself. And one reason to use closed wrap links and jump rings to connect them instead of wrapping the links to each other, which is a perfectly viable way of making a beaded chain, by the way. I will do both often. But one reason to do it this way is so that you get kind of a better, slinkier chain. It gives it more movement. And also ease of assembly, because that way I don't have to forget that I need to wrap the next link to the one before it and then accidentally wrap it and then have to cut my link open and start all over again, because I will do that if I'm doing it joining it as I go. But also so that I can kind of assembly line making my links and then put them together afterwards with the jump rings, and so that I can change my mind like I did just now with how I wanted it to go. It was just going to be one long strand of beads on each side, and now I'm adding this instead. So I had already made the links, and then I just changed my mind before assembling it for it to go together a different way than how I had originally planned when I pulled these beads out. So, that's just another reason to do it, but it is a preference for the way you might want to put together a beaded chain like this. But I also wanted these jump rings to kind of give me these little pops of the brass color in the midst of the black. I like that little contrast between the two, especially since I'm using like little bits of brass findings or bronze findings. Not brass. Brass is much more orange than this. But yeah, since I'm using these bronze findings, I wanted a little more bronze in the chain. and the jump rings are gonna just give me that. So it's another way to add a design element too, if you've got a certain color of jump ring that you're using that you want to bring out a little bit more or continue with. It's another reason to use them. They're just a very useful finding for multiple reasons. Alright, so that's my second strand done. Now I'm going to do my center strand. Let's put these guys together. Some days I am more coordinated than others. You know, I get there eventually. Sometimes it's hard to have patience with myself when I think, I should be better at this than that. But I think about how much grace I give other people and, you know, accepting how they do things too, without nitpicking or anything like that. And I do. I think it's easy for me to meet people where they are. It's a little less easy for me to meet myself where I am, because I'm always wanting to improve, I'm always wanting to get better, but I think it's important for us to let ourselves just be us and be where we are when we are, you know, without expecting more of ourselves than we're able to do. Because it's always good to strive to get better at something, but if you're always nitpicking yourself and your work or something like that, it makes it really difficult for you to appreciate what you've done and the good things that you've done and the pretty things that you've made. If you're always thinking, well, I could have done that better. So I am being patient with myself right now. Alright, so that's my center one, and now let's do our sides. Actually, I'm going to do this whole thing all together from one end to the other, and then we'll put them all together on the connectors and add our clasp. And then we can move on to the bracelets after that. Alright, let's make sure that our hearts are going to be facing up. I mean, upside down hearts would be cute too, but facing up that way. Oop. This one over here, and then connect it to my focal. There we go. So far, so good. I am enjoying this project. I like it. I think it's a fun little Valentine-y thing. Our little goth Valentines. My dark Valentine. Go, one more right there. Sorry, my pliers picked up a hitchhiker. I had to shake it loose. It was a little extra strand of wire that had been sitting on my desk. I need to clear away my offcuts. Alright, I'm just turning my links so that they are facing the right way. So I'm going to want to connect these two like this, and that like this. Alright. So let's get these connected on here. This part right here where we've got a focal that faces front is probably the only part that we're really going to pay too much attention to the way that the loops are facing when we connect it. Because everything else, it's fine if it's turned around the other way. They're the same front and back. But these ones aren't, so this is going to be the front towards the back of that one. Where'd my jump ring go? There it is. Alright, so I'm going through front to back on this one, and then I'll go back to front on the next one. And that way when they're spread out, the fronts will be both displayed at the same time. Like so. Let's do the same thing on the other side before I forget how it goes. Alright, front to back through that hole, back to front through that hole. Alright, now, here we go. Now I'm going to be attaching these two there. Like that. Oh, for pretty. I like that. I like the way that that's going to drape. I'll hold it up and test it once I've got it all connected up. But let's get this end attached to this second loop. It's fun to use jump ring, or to use bead caps in different ways than they were originally imagined. Like these great big loops on these bead caps make perfect triple end connectors. Love that. There we go. Let me make sure that these are turned the right way. Turned the right way. Turned the right way. And then this one's going to come over here like this. That's how that's going to drape. You know, I think I'm okay with that. Although I might swap out this for a smaller bead there. Let me just pull out a smaller bead. right there in the middle. I'm going to make a little link with that. I just think maybe that's too long there. I like the way it draped, but it was kind of like hiding behind the rest of the necklace. And I don't really like that part that much. So I'm going to leave the other parts connected. Just take off this link here. Whoop. Because you can always change your mind, guys. Even if you've already made your links, because I can use these in another design. In fact, I could use them in some earrings, I think. They'd be really great in that. So let's just make another link while I've got this wire out. Super quick. Where's my round nose pliers? Because that's what I need. Right. I do have another link to make with you. It's the focal link for my bracelet. So when we get to that, I'll be pulling out this wire again. Alright, so that will be in the middle. Let's see if that looks a little bit better when it drapes. There you go. Yeah, there we go. That will look nice on a necklace. Okay, yeah, I do. I like that better. All right, let's get these other ends attached and then get to our closures, and then we can move on to bracelets. Then after bracelets, we'll do earrings. I love that. Also, it's important to stop and admire your work. I've said it before and I will say it again. Looking back at how far you've come is such a great opportunity. There we go. All right, we are put together. I'm just going to do a real quick fit check before I put on my clasp, just to verify that that is the perfect length. Absolutely love it. I will be putting this on to try it on during my wrap up and chat. Probably going to be this Sunday. I might get my sister to try some things on with me. I might talk her into that. We'll see how we're both feeling though. All right, let's get this end. I'm just going to attach the lobster clasp. I've already got a loop on this end that we can attach the clasp to when we put on a necklace. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I always test a lobster clasp first because it's happened a couple of times that I went to make something and it was only after I put on the lobster clasp that it didn't work twice. But, you know, once is enough for me to constantly be like, verify, verify, verify. And like the second time I was glad that I did that thing because I was like, well, yeah, this actually works better with pliers and not round nose pliers. Chain nose, not round nose. There we go. All right. So now we have a completed necklace with our dangly focal, our 2 layers, and our red and black pretties. All right, I'm moving that out of the way so I can get out the beads that I've turned into links for a bracelet. And I've got 2 of these ceramic heart beads and 1 of these roundels, and I'm going to make a link that mirrors this ring that I've already made. But I'm going to use the black wire for that, so it matches the black wire here, and then just use the brass or the bronze jump rings to pull in that antique bronze color that we've got going on with everything else. So let's make our link. Got my 20 gauge wire, and I want these, all 3 of these beads on here. Like the way that I made those other links with just a single bead, that's exactly how I made each of these other ones. But for this one, I'm going to stack on my heart with the bumpy part towards the middle. And then we're going to stack on our other heart on the other side of this rondelle so that our bumpy parts are facing each other. And then we're going to start wrapping our wire. And the rest of this is just like the way I did the other links. Just this one is a little bit different because it has 3 beads instead of 1. 1, 2, 3. This will be the focal. Of this bracelet. Because wrists are often bendy, I'm just going to go ahead and give this a little bit of a curve because it's a longer link. These are short links, so they don't need me to do that work for them. But let's get these put together. Turn it into a bracelet. I'm going to start from the middle out, using again the jump rings. I thought about just using the antique bronze wire, the vintage bronze, to make my links just for this, but I wanted to make sure that it actually fit with the necklace as well as the other bits and pieces. So using the jump rings is where we're going to bring that color into this. Now, I think I'm going to check my length before I add these next two links, because it's entirely possible that I am going to need to add more links, or it may be long enough as it is. So let me get my bracelet mandrel out. Let's see where we are on this. Oh yeah, those links. Alright, we need to add these two guys, and then maybe these two. Good thing I pulled them out from my necklace, huh? They might also need to be in here as part of this, so let's get our black rondelles on here. Now, I thought when I pulled out a pile of jump rings that it was a little bit overkill, but it turns out I might have pulled out exactly enough jump rings for this, because I've got like 3 left over here. Alright, here we go. Let's check our length now, because the links add to it, but it also pulls the circumference away from your wrist when you use links like this. So it looks like I have enough space here for maybe one more of these guys and then a clasp. So let's do that. Let's grab a clasp. And maybe I will make my own little extender chain with some of these jump rings and attach this as a dangle. Maybe. Let's see. open. So I've added this one. Just double checking that length. I'm not going to need an extender chain at all. I can just close it up like that. It's going to work just fine. In fact, you know what? I probably don't need this actually. Let's just make an extender chain without this. Or use this as a dangle. No, I don't want to use that as a dangle like that. Alright, so extender chains, curb chains make really good extender chains, especially if they have larger links in them. But if you don't have any of that kind of chain, you can always make your own by putting some links together. Okay, so let's close this up. Close this up. Close this one. Nope, let's use it to put these two together instead. There we go. There we go. Nice. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. Link. And I'm going to turn this into a dangle. I just snipped off the wire that had made it into a link. Now I'm just going to grab a head pin and just turn that bead into a little dangle. If I can get into my container of head pins. Actually, no, not those head pins. Let's use some of these. I think I'd like, there we go, a ball head pin. That will work. It just makes the dangle look a little bit cooler. I'm just going to do a little wrapped loop right up here at the top with that wire. Sorry, I'm off screen so that I can see what I'm doing better. It's a tiny loop. I was just tucking in this end, but I need to snip this little end off. There we go. Now I've got a little dangle that I can attach to this chain. And I can attach that chain here. Got a little chain. This way, this bracelet is adjustable by having multiple places that I can connect it to. Let's connect that here. And by adding a dangle to the end of it, it's going to make it easier to get it on and off. I'll show you that in just a sec. Let me just open this jump ring here at the very end of this chain. Put this guy on there. If I hold that dangle with one hand, then my bracelet doesn't go anywhere as I close it with the other. And now I've got my bracelet made. Matches the ring and the necklace. Let's make our earring. So here's the first earring. I'm going to make the second to make it a pair. And I already showed y'all how to make this component. We made it when we did our focal. So I went ahead and made a second one for the earring on my own. And now I'm going to grab some more wire and we're going to get this created. I think I used 22 gauge for this one. Yep. And it's bronze. And basically I'm doing something similar as to what I did with the focal by cutting off way more wire than I need for this so that I can wrap it up and then back down around. So let's get about 6 inches cut off here. I'm going to make a little teeny head pin at the end of it by wrapping it in a little circle and going around a few times to make a very small spiral or coil. Bending this guy to go through that hole that I made, just like I did with the other. And then using my nylon jaw pliers to hold that while I pull it through, because that will give this something to sit on as I put it through there. Now that I've got that on there, let's see, it was the black bead, and for this I'm just using the black, sort of the matte black round bead that came in the kit, and then another one of these bright red rondelles, just like that. I'm gonna bend this up over the top, make a little wrapped loop, go around here a couple of times, and before I hit the bead, I'm going to go around that bead, a little bit in between it, then around this black bead, and then up under it. Whoop, where you go, buddy? I'll hold the whole thing now so that I can get myself some leverage. And then just under here, just keep wrapping a little bit more. until you feel like it's nice and secure-ish. And I'm just going to rotate the loop. I've got my finger on the beads and these wraps down here. And I'm going to hold on to that while I rotate this loop so that the loop is open facing towards where these wraps are. And you know what? I was going to like have it go the other way, and then I forgot to do that, and it looks like accidentally I did, so that they mirror each other, and I'm really happy about that, but my swirls don't mirror each other. And I'm just going to be okay with that, because I'm not redoing it. Because I totally forgot which way I was going to be putting my my cascade on when I did it. I forgot that I was going to be mirroring it, and I accidentally did what I intended to do. Yay, good for me. Sometimes you have very happy accidents. All right, let me get all of these bits and pieces out to show you before we say goodbye. I've got my earrings. I've got my ring. I've got my bracelet. And I've got my necklace. And I made all of these with the Star Crossed Lovers kit from Softflex. Softflex design kits are not subscriptions. They're usually limited in amount. When they sell out, they sell out. As of yesterday, they still had some on their site. I don't know if they still do or not, because I haven't checked that. But they're getting low for the amount. I'll put a link to Softflex in the description below. And I will also put a link to the live that I made this in. And until then, happy beading!